What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is officially NHL trade deadline day, and right now I'm recording this at 3 o'clock, so there might be a few more trades that trickle in, but basically we now have the new landscape of the league. So today I'm going to go through my 3 biggest winners and losers of the deadline and talk about the most significant trades that happened from the day. And I think it's only fitting that we go ahead and talk about Mikko Rantanen first, since that's been the biggest story of the deadline and the season for the most part. But before I do get into this video, it's not going to be super heavily edited because, well, I want to get this out to you guys as a quick reaction video so you can actually have this in a timely manner, and I just don't have the time to do all of the extra stuff right now. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you want to keep supporting this stuff, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But with all that being said, let's talk about the biggest trade of the day, and that's Mikko Rantanen, of course. The Carolina Hurricanes send Mikko Rantanen to the Dallas Stars for a package that includes Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks. But a part of this trade that was really important for Dallas was knowing that they could re-sign Rantanen before they made that trade. So Carolina last night let Dallas talk to Rantanen. They negotiated until about halfway through the deadline today, and he signed an 8-year extension worth $98 million, $12 million per season. Now, it was reported earlier that Carolina was offering him over $13 million, so it's pretty clear that Rantanen just didn't want to play for that team. And you can't really be mad at him if you're from Colorado, if you're from Carolina, because he didn't want to leave Colorado in the first place. He was just trying to get his highest value. I do feel for Carolina fans here, though. In the grand scheme of things, basically you lost Necas and Rantanen over the past couple of months, but realistically you traded Necas for Logan Stankoven and 2 first-round picks. So you shouldn't feel all that bad, but I do understand why you're hurting, because you wanted to bring this guy in and have him be your future, and unfortunately it just wasn't in the cards. So I think it'll be important for Carolina to figure out what they're going to do with those picks. Are you going to draft and build for the future, or are you going to try and flip them and continue competing within this cup window that you have? I think people forget Carolina is actually a kind of a young team, and they have a long time where they can kind of use these superstars like Aho and Jarvis and continue figuring out what their next steps are going to be. Now, I know I was rambling on about Carolina, but let's talk about Dallas, because I do think that they're the more important team in this trade, especially for this season, since this is their year to win the cup. I don't think anyone could argue that they now have the best forward group in hockey, especially that top line of Robertson, Hintz, and Rantanen. Not to mention, they got Granlund already, and they might get Tyler Seguin back. I mean, this is going to be a tough team to beat, and it's not going to change in the near future with them re-signing Rantanen, as well as re-signing Wyatt Johnston to a 5-year, just over $8 million contract. Rantanen is the highest paid player on this team, but everyone else is under that $10 million mark. So Dallas is going to be dangerous in the future. I think this was a very good move, basically for both teams, especially given where Carolina was. But let me know what you guys think about this Rantanen trade. Are you all in on Dallas, and how do you feel about Carolina flipping him again and getting these assets back in the end? Second trade of the day, this one actually happened before the Rantanen one, but it's still pretty massive, especially because it's within the division. And this actually isn't the only move that Colorado made, so we're going to go through all 3 of their trades. First trade they made was about a week ago. They acquired Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey from the New York Rangers. Then yesterday they go out and they bring in Brock Nelson for a package that is a bit overpriced, but I think when you're trying to compete with the other teams, especially with you now knowing that Rantanen is in Dallas, this was a pretty good move for Colorado to make for the now. It will all depend on an extension when it comes to Brock Nelson, if he wants to re-sign in Colorado, which I don't see why he wouldn't want to do that. It's a great team. You're playing with McKinnon and Makar. It seems like the perfect fit. Then they go out and trade Casey Mittelstadt, who has been on trade rumors basically for weeks now, for Charlie Coyle from Boston, who to me is a significant upgrade. Coyle is a great two-way center, and if you put him on a third-line Stanley Cup winning team, I think that's where he's going to thrive. I truly believe that Charlie Coyle is going to be a massive upgrade for Colorado. Now, here's where we're at. Do I think that Colorado's lineup is better than Dallas? No, but I do believe that they have a bit more edge to their lineup, and that with their experience, they might actually be able to come out of the West this year. I just like the versatility of Dallas's lineup. I think that their players are just a bit more skillful. Yes, Colorado does have the better defense, and yes, they have Nathan McKinnon, who's clearly the best player on the ice. Maybe I'm wrong. I do give the slight edge to Dallas here, but I love the moves that Colorado made, and I love that they're being aggressive and trying to finish out this season, knowing that they're still in their window to win a Stanley Cup and that they need to continue building around Nathan McKinnon. Now, there is still the question of, is Landeskog going to come back? And if he does, I think that we're talking about a Colorado team who would then probably pass Dallas. But right now, those are the two teams to beat in the West, and I think that those should be everyone's two Stanley Cup favorite teams. Now, quickly, we'll just touch on the Islanders. They did get a nice package back for Brock Nelson, and I'm happy that they traded him. I know that he was a beloved player on the island, but we're talking about getting a first-round pick as well as one of the better prospects from the Colorado Avalanche in a deal, and it would be silly to not make that move. So good for the Islanders for finally understanding that they need to retool, and great moves by the Colorado Avalanche. How are you guys feeling about it, though? Are you happy with the moves they made? Are you happy with what they gave up, especially now knowing that Dallas got Rantanen? Or do you guys feel like they could have held out a little bit more and maybe not have gone all in like they did this year, giving up so much for these type of players? This is kind of breaking news. I didn't think this was going to be a part of this video, but Brad Marchand was traded to the Florida Panthers, as well as the Bruins sending Brandon Carlo to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just crazy. It's crazy to me that the Bruins have fire sailed this quickly. They've gotten rid of Brazeau, Frederic, Marchand, Carlo, and Coyle. That's the other guy, Coyle. I mean, this is insane to me that the Bruins were expected to be one of the top teams in their division, and their season has gone so sour. I need to see what they got back for Brad Marchand to really make a judgment, but just to give you guys the update here, yeah, the Bruins have fully fire sailed, and Brad Marchand will be on the Panthers, and with Brad Marchand going to that team, I think that that really makes it a Dallas versus Florida finals. I mean, I don't know how else you look at this. It would have to be another team making a really serious move for that to not be the case, but Brad Marchand should fit perfectly in Florida. As a Bruins fan, it hurts me still to hear this, but yeah, that's going to be a great move for Florida going forward. What do you guys think about that? Again, you'll probably have the details a little bit more when it comes out, so drop your thoughts in the comments once you find those out. But for right now, I think it probably was time for the Bruins to move on from those kind of pieces. Next trade on my list, this is Josh Norris going to the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Dylan Cozens. And actually, I'm a big fan of this trade. I think this is one of those situations where you have two players who both need a change of scenery. They're both young. They both have a ton of potential. And I just think that not being in the same situation after whether you're dealing with health or just a slump is sometimes a good thing for you. And I think for two teams who have been in a playoff drought for so long, that this is kind of a nice swap that you like to see. It's like a good old-fashioned hockey trade. For Josh Norris, I do think that he has a little bit more talent here than Dylan Cozens, so naturally it is a bit of a downgrade for Ottawa, but with all of the health issues that Norris has been dealing with and Ottawa trying to get into the playoffs this year, I do think that this should pay off for them in the future. They both have similar cap hits, should be on this contract for around the same time, so it truly is one of those trades where it's just one for one. I honestly don't see that there's a loser here. I think that this is just one of those situations where they both understand that they needed a bit of a culture change up within their locker room, so they decided to pull the trigger here. So let me know what you guys think about this. Which team do you think won this trade? I think it's pretty even, but if I had to lean one way, I do really like this deal for Buffalo because I do think Josh Norris is going to give them a little bit of an advantage here, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now let's wrap this video up by talking about my three biggest winners and losers from the day. Dallas, of course, is the biggest winner, getting Rantanen and signing him to that deal. It's just fantastic for their organization, as well as re-signing Wyatt Johnston and really only losing a couple picks and unfortunately Stankoven in the process. You also then have Colorado being a winner here. Of course, it's going to depend on what they do for their future, but for this season, I do think getting Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle are massive upgrades. And if they can re-sign Brock Nelson and keep Charlie Coyle in town, I think this is going to be a tough team to beat going forward. I also do think that the Florida Panthers are winners of this deadline. It's hard to really dispute that. Bringing in a top four defenseman in Seth Jones, who has a ton of potential, and then getting Brad Marchand, I mean, that's a crazy move for them to make, and they're going to be the hardest team to beat in the East. Honorable mention is going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. I do like that they got Lofton, as well as getting themselves Brandon Carlo. I think that they're going to be a lot harder than people expect to beat in the East, but still, I do have Florida being the top dog. Now let's talk about the biggest losers, and I don't think that the Jets are losers, but I'm putting them on this list, maybe contradicting myself here because they didn't do as much as the Avalanche and the Stars, and in a year where the Jets really needed to capitalize on this window, I feel like they kind of failed here. They did go out and get themselves Tanev and Shen, who I think are going to be great additions for them, but comparatively to the Stars and the Avalanche, the Jets just aren't going to be good enough to beat them in a playoff series. Then I have the LA Kings, a team who goes out and gets Kuzmenko, but desperately needed to get themselves themselves a top 6 winger who could score, and they just didn't really do all that much. Now, to be fair, they were kicking tires on Rantanen and wanted to make a move for him, but he just didn't want to sign with them, so why would they make a trade like that? So it is kind of one of those situations where Winnipeg and LA, they're not losers because they address some of their issues, but with the West getting more competitive, they needed to do a bit more. And lastly, I'm going to mention the Washington Capitals here because the Eastern Conference just got a lot harder with Toronto and Florida. And with you having this great season, you should have gone out and really tried to be aggressive for a guy like Jared McCann. Even if Seattle wasn't really trying to actively shop him, you might have been able to push them or another team to give you a player with a bit more of like a scoring touch. We talk about Besser a little bit with him staying in Vancouver. It seemed like they were shopping him. Bradmarchand was clearly on the market and you didn't go out and push for him. I don't know. I feel like Washington could have done a lot more at this deadline. So those are my 3 biggest losers, with an honorable mention being, I guess, the Detroit Red Wings. I would have loved to see them actually make a big swing at a player, and they really didn't do all that much outside of going to get like Mrazek and giving them a bit more goaltending depth. So yeah, those are my biggest winners and losers of the deadline, but I want to hear from you guys on all of this. I know this isn't a traditional video that I put out, so I hope you guys enjoyed it and watched till the very end. And if you're still here, go ahead and hit that like button now and subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this. I'll have a lot more content coming out with more details on all of these trades, giving you guys a little bit more in-depth analysis on these. But thank you guys so much for watching these videos. I appreciate you all. I will see you guys in the next episode.